Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by SoundWeb Studios. Visit online at soundwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget, SoundWeb Studios is the answer. SoundWeb Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@soundwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international war-winning author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has gotten great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Hollywood celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for Girls Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com on over 30 podcast platforms, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple Music, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas like t-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, a lot more, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast and the MikeWagnerShow.com. And for more great gift ideas, including great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles, also t-shirts, pop sockets, phone cases, and more, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Make sure you check it out today. Also support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, as well as PayPal and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Make sure you do so today. We're here with a terrific singer and a former guitarist of Wishbone Ash from 94 to 97. He played on various gig circuits across the U.S., and he was with Cinema, Universal Language, and Rock is Real. And he also a distinction of playing with a couple of members of the original Wishbone Ash, along with a former member. And he also did a Beatles tribute band and worked on some other projects. He also became a solo artist with Worlds Within, and he also appeared on songs appeared on A&E and also Disney and Pixar films, and also played a couple of times with Chubby Checker. We'll talk about his latest song, Feel So High, which is previously done by his former band and does as a solo project. I mean, this is just a great tune. We'll talk more about it. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios somewhere in beautiful Connecticut, the former guitarist of Wishbone Ash, the amazing singer, songwriter, and guitarist, the amazing Roger Filgate. Roger, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all the above. Hi, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you on board as well, too, Roger. So you're a former guitarist of Wishbone Ash from 94 to 97. You played on various circuits across the U.S., and you also had played with a couple of the members of Wishbone Ash and a former member, and you also had a career with the Beatles Tribute. You also worked on some other projects and a couple of songs that feature on A&E, Disney, and Pixar. You also have a couple of solo projects. And we'll also talk about your new song, Feel So High, which is out on all the platforms right now. It's getting a lot of reviews. And before we get into all that, Roger, tell us how you first got started.
Boy, well, it goes back to when I was a wee lad. First of all, I'm the youngest of 4 boys and born into a musical family. My mom was a classical concert pianist.
Wow.
And so we grew up, and all my older brothers were musicians as well. So basically, I was the youngest, so I was like a kid in a musical candy store for I had all of these different styles at my disposal and just thought that was, the normal thing. I thought everybody grew up like that, but evidently that's not the case. But my mom was a classical pianist and she taught piano as well. And so she taught all of us piano lessons from a very early age. And then, so age 4, started learning piano. And then by the time I was 9, I was, all through my youth, I grew up watching my 2 oldest brothers, Mike and Jim, were always in bands. They were, a fair amount older than me. So it was a thrill to watch them in groups and then, go to clubs and see them perform and stuff. And so they got me, especially Jim, my brother Jim, who started out as a drummer and then got into guitar early on, got me into a lot of the early music, the great music, the 60s and 70s, especially, Beatles and Stones and all the classic bands. And then he too got me into great groups, basically like the progressive rock bands that came out in the late 60s through the mid 70s that got really big, like Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Jethro Tull, Genesis, Rush, great groups like that. Wishbone Ash too.
Yes, that's right. I was going to mention that. Yes, Genesis, Rush, those are my faves. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big prog head. I love progressive rock, and so I really got into that from an early age. I started out on the basics. Learning guitar and then learning pop music and rock and early blues and things like that, and loving all of that. But then when I heard those bands, and I think the first time I saw Yes live, I think I was 11 years old, and Jim brought me to a concert to see them, and that was it. That night changed my life forever.
Wow.
I saw Yes on stage, and I saw Steve Howe, and I just remember thinking, that's what I want to do, and
amazing. I was just going to ask you that question, but you pretty much answered it. Meeting Steve Howe, that was so amazing. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So, I was lucky enough. So fast forward years and years later, of course, when I ended up finally getting into Wishbone Ash in the 90s, I had the very good fortune of, sharing the stage with some of those bands that I was mentioning. We were lucky to, be touring, and our paths would cross, and we would play these festivals and larger shows where they would have these prog rock festivals. And so a lot of these bands were on the same bill.
Wow.
And I was thrilled to be able to, meet and perform with these guys. And so, yeah, Steve Howe was one of them. We shared the stage on a couple of occasions, and it was quite a thrill for me,
And how'd you first get involved with Wishbone Ash?
Well, actually, I had lived, after I graduated high school, I moved to LA, and I lived out there in the 80s. And, I was in groups out there. We performed in the club circuits and did the whole thing during the 80s. And it was a good time, crazy time to be out there, but fun. And I moved back to the East Coast. I think it was 1990. And I was actually working at a music store, a big music store out here in Danbury at the time. And actually, Andy Powell had walked in the store, and I was working in the guitar department. I was a salesman, and so I was working with Andy, and we just hit it off. He just happened to come over to me, and he was had his son with him, and he was looking for drum products and some guitar stuff. And so obviously I knew he was British by his accent, and we were talking about all sorts of things. And then when we get up to the finalize the sale, he gave me his credit card.
Wow.
And so I looked at the credit card, and I noticed it had a British flag on it. And then it was, Andrew Powell. I said, Andy Powell. I said, "You're from Wishbone Ash?" He goes, "Yeah, that's right, mate." And so then I told him my story of how my brother Jim got me into Wishbone years ago. I grew up listening to that stuff, and it was some of the first material I learned how to play on the guitar, and so it was a thrill. So anyway, fast forward, he had asked for, so that was a great thing to have that connection. During that time, he needed a piano teacher for one of his sons. And he asked me, "Do you know of anyone?" I said, "Well, do I know of anyone? I know, one of the greatest classical pianists in the world, my mom." And as it turns out, they lived 10 minutes apart.
Huh. Interesting.
In the next town. So I ended up getting them together, gave him my mom's number. He started lessons for his son with my mom at the time. And it went very well. And then I called Andy, I think about a month or so later, just as a follow-up. And I said, I told him, that I was a guitarist, and I play and I write songs and blah, 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 blah. So if you ever care to hear any of my material, let's get together. So he said, "Yeah, come on over." So I did. And what was originally supposed to be just getting together for like an hour for lunch turned into a 4 or 5 hour event at his house. And we picked up guitars, we played, we had a great time, and we just hit it off so well. And we clicked as players, we clicked as friends, and that was the start of our friendship, you know. And,
Wow. That
yeah.
is so amazing. Of course, you're also on a few albums as well too with Wishbone Ash, and I think it was I'm just trying to see what was on there too. It's like you were on the live album, you're on the compilations, and you're
Right.
also on Distillation live in Geneva. Those are the three that were on. Tell us more about those.
Sure. Yeah. Well, long story short, if I can shorten this, when I first met Andy, we were working together, and at the time, it was Andy Powell and Ted Turner, the other original guitarist, and they were working with another drummer and bassist at the time, and so they were touring, and he had asked me to join them on the road for some tours. So my first venture on the road, I was actually a roadie.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was quite a trip, you know. So I went out and I was schlepping gear, going around the country, and you know, we did the States, Canada, the whole bit. And during that time, I was writing songs with he and Ted too. We were like riffing, you know, and just kind of getting learning the ropes, as it were. And then later on that year, I think, well, then we went to Europe as well, and came back, and Ted had left the band. So shortly afterwards, and so Andy looked at me and goes, "Hey mate, you're next up at bat. Care to join the band?"
How do you like that?
How do you like that? Yeah. So from that came you know, future tours that were booked. So our first album that we did when I joined was in 1995, I want to say. So I joined the band basically in 94, and we started touring, and we recorded a live album called Live in Geneva.
Hmm.
And that happened to be our very first show with the band.
Wow.
So unbeknownst to us, Andy kind of saved that as a little bit of a surprise. You know, we pull up to Geneva, and all this crew busts in with the massive cameras and big recording desks and the whole bit. And he goes, "Oh yes, forgot to tell you, mate, we're making a live album tonight." You know?
Smile, you're on candid camera.
Yeah, yeah. Welcome to the world of rock and roll. So it was, you know, we're all, the rest of us are looking at each other like, "Oh my God, what do we do? The cameras are right here on our face and you're on," you know? And so, you know what? It ended up being a great show. We had a blast. They did a great job on the album. It was a German company that came into Switzerland with this big mobile setup. You know, they had the big tractor trailers out in the parking lot. And then, you know, they mixed and released the album the following year. So it was really well done. So that was the first album. We toured, and then during that time, I was writing material. Andy was writing material, and he and I were collaborating on what was to be our first studio album called Illuminations.
Hmm.
And that came out in 96. And so that was the first studio album, and you know, primarily made up of musically mostly my material that I had written prior and along the way, and then Andy and I getting together and co-writing a lot of the material. And Andy had some stuff too. So there was a heavy collaboration there on Wishbone, on Illuminations. That was the first studio album that we did, and that's where we could really spend a lot of time together. Being that we lived, you know, 10-15 minutes down the road from one another, we could get together a lot while we're here, because he's also in Connecticut. So we would, you know, get together, write, record, and just keep chipping away at the album. And then we go on tour, and we'd start writing and recording over in England, in London.
Wow.
And so that particular album was recorded and compiled in two places, in London and over here in Connecticut, over the course of most of the year of 1996, 95 into 96. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, and that was overall, I think it was well received by fans because it was kind of a fresh sound at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just trying to steer the ship in a little different direction than what they had done prior, but still keeping some of the integral parts, of course, the twin lead guitars, and the sound. I ended up not only playing guitar in that, but I played bass on that as well.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, and so we had started recording over in England, and then came back here to the States to continue on. And since I had written a lot of the material, I demoed it already with the guitar and the bass on it. So we figured, well, I know it. So it worked out really well.
It sounds like it worked really well too. And before we talk about your other material, what's your favorite Wishbone Ash song of all time?
Oh boy, that's a great question. I love, especially, probably like all the diehard fans, the first 3-4 albums are most people's favorites. And that's what I grew up with as well. I always loved Pilgrimage. Argus and the first album, Wishbone Ash, are great, but I loved Pilgrimage. And I loved Vastis, Lullaby, obviously The King Will Come, Throw Down the Sword, Blowing Free, all that stuff. It's great. It's really hard to pin down just one, it really is. It's but Lady Whiskey is one of my favorites too. It's just, such a smoking tune, just great.
Yeah. It sounds like a really good one too. We'll talk about your other ventures as well too, having one of your songs on A&E, also Disney, Pixar. You also did a couple of songs with Chubby Checker and more as well too, and some of your solo works. But first, listen to the Mike Widener Show at the MikeWidenerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@SonicWebStudios.com. Mention the Mike Widener Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Widener Show, international well-ring author Mia Mosensia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Mosensia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Mosensia has gotten great reviews, and Evil Love and endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today before it goes missing by Mia Mosensia. Available on Amazon. Also, the Mike Widener Show can be heard on the MikeWidenerShow.com, over 30 podcast platforms. Take us with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Widener Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Widener Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas 24/7, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Widener Show podcast and the MikeWidenerShow.com. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Mosensia for great books, merchandise, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Mosensia. Check it out today. And don't forget to support the Mike Widener Show on Anchor FM and PayPal and the MikeWidenerShow.com. Make sure you donate generously today. We're here with the amazing singer and songwriter, former guitarist of Wishbone Ash, Roger Filgate, here on the Mike Widener Show, and talked a lot about the history of Wishbone Ash, what's it like to be on Wishbone Ash, and just amazing to be, talking about the music and, one of the classic legends. And before we get into your song, Feel So High, as your latest project, you also appeared in a couple of Chubby Checker songs. You also had a song on A&E and also Disney and Pixar, and also a couple of solo works as well, too, including Worlds Within. And tell us about some of your other works.
Sure. Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, after my time with Wishbone Ash, I pursued other groups, and one of which is my solo material, which ended up being instrumental, and an entirely different venture for me. It was something that I never really anticipated getting into. But we had done 1 or 2 instrumental tracks when I was with Wishbone, but mostly like a band with the vocals and the instruments and all that. So I thought, well, let me just try something different, because every other band I had been in prior to that always had vocals. And so I set out to do an instrumental album, and really just for my own enjoyment, and it was called Worlds Within. And stylistically, it's kind of all over the map. It was, rock, blues, some country, chicken picking, classical, acoustic ragtime stuff, and progressive rock and all that. So I put it out there, and I did a bunch of interviews and had it reviewed by all the guitar magazines, Guitar Player, Vintage Guitar, and it was well received and did well. And actually, as a result of that, it kind of got into the whole network of these TV shows. And lo and behold, A&E picked it up, and they ended up using some of the songs as background material on some of their TV shows. One of which was Gene Simmons' Family Jewels, Gene Simmons from Kiss.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, that's the first time we had heard it being played. And then lo and behold, again, A&E, they use it on a lot of their shows that they feature. So it's tucked in there, amongst the other material. So that was just a byproduct of me putting it out there. I wasn't even expecting it to go into those worlds, but it did. So.
It also got into Pixar and Disney as well, too. It's like, who would have thought of that?
Exactly. Yeah. So they ended up picking it up, and they used it on some of the video games, World of Cars, which is based on the movie Cars.
My son's favorite. Yes. He's obsessed.
Yeah. So there you go. So they used some of some of the songs off that album. And then from there, I did for 8 or 9 years, I did more instrumental music, and just, again, stylistically all over the map. Sometimes I'd put out a single, sometimes it would be 2 tracks or another album, compilation albums. And so it's just kind of whatever I was in the mood for that particular year, or whatever, musically, whatever my interests were, I would switch gears a lot, and just put it out there. And so it definitely got me into that whole world, which is kind of cool. I wasn't expecting that at all to happen, but it did.
He also appeared on a couple of Chubby Checker tunes, and we thought he was passe, and it's like, he's still in style, believe it or not. Like, Knock Down the Walls, Charger. Like, oh my gosh! I'm like, wow, you play with Chubby Checker. It's amazing.
Yeah, that was quite a surprise. A friend of mine manages him, and they called me and asked if I would be interested in playing guitar on one of his upcoming tracks at the time. And they played me the track, just a demo of it. It's like, wow, this is really good stuff. It's, very contemporary, top 40 kind of pop rock tune. And the first one was called Knock Down the Walls. And that happened in and around the same time I was recording and finishing up my first solo album, Worlds Within.
Oh, wow.
So that coincided with his schedule. So I went down to New York City and Manhattan and laid down some guitar work on that. And met Chubby. He was a great guy, wonderful guy. We just got along great. And then he invited me down to Lincoln Center. We played a big concert, the summer series in Lincoln Center.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, and that was a blast. And then my album was just debuting, so I invited him to come up and perform with me at my first debut concert of Worlds Within, and he did. He drove up, and so I featured him as a guest. It was great,
Wow. Boy, legends all across the board. And don't forget, you also did a Beatles tribute as well, too, Twist and Shout. I mean, that had to be something for you.
It was great fun. One of the guys in Wishbone, who actually was the lead singer and bassist at the time, his name was Tony Kishman. And he sang on Illuminations and also on Live in Geneva. So Tony was, prior to that, in a very successful Beatles tribute band going back to the late 70s. He was one of the original members of Beatlemania, the Broadway show.
Oh, yes, that's right. I remember Beatlemania. That's what started the whole thing on Broadway. I mean, wow.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Back in the day. So they had, band members on rotation, and Tony played the role of Paul McCartney. And then he basically had a spin-off band, with the Beatles show, and very successful, went around the world. And so basically after we had left Wishbone, I went over and joined the Beatlemania show for a couple of years.
Hmm.
And that was interesting, a lot of fun. That took us to different places in the world. And then, I had basically had enough of that. And then I basically decided, all right, it's time for me to do my own thing now. And that's how I got into my own solo bands at that point.
Hmm.
But it was fun.
And of course, you did a lot of solo work as well too. You talk about some of the progressive rock groups, being in influences. Who are some of your other major influences, including your favorite artists, singers, songwriters from all the genres? Who are some of your other influences?
Well, interestingly enough, I talked about the prog bands, Yes, and all those. Yes was probably, as far as musically, I would put them at the top of the list in terms of influences, just because of, especially Steve Howe as a guitarist. He was so versatile.
Hmm.
And I learned a whole great deal from his technique and style. And then on the flip side would be somebody like Steve Gaines from Leonard Skinner,
Oh, wow.
um, who was a phenomenal guitarist. He was a great, clean Strat picker, and I learned a lot from learning his riffs and just picking off all the clean technique that he had. Like, I Know a Little, you got that right, and just incredible chops. And one thing that attracted me to him as a player, unlike a lot of the players at the time who always would play with heavy distortion and things like that, Steve Gaines just played a Strat plugged into an amp, clean as a whistle, and nothing to hide behind, man. Just wailing, shredding out those clean riffs.
Oh my gosh. And forget the distortion. It's just as is. I love it.
As is. So there's no hiding behind it, man. And you got to learn how to play. And so he was one of the greats, and I learned an awful lot from him. So I picked up a lot of his technique along the way too. So that was an interesting, almost like Southern rock country combo
Hmm.
thrown into the mix. And I've used that to this day in my style. On Worlds Within, I use those techniques just in my playing in general.
Huh. That's really interesting. And where can we find all your music at, including with your time with Wishbone Ash, also your solo compilations and everything else? Where can we find all your music at?
Well, probably the best way to check it out, and you can download it. It's all on Apple iTunes, Google and Amazon and all that. YouTube, there's YouTube videos out of it as well. And then Wishbone material is all out there as well. If you just dial up, Wishbone Ash Illuminations or Live in Geneva, I think through Amazon you can buy or down either. If do people still buy CDs now, Mike?
There are some people that do. Some people buy vinyl, which is on the comeback, and
I don't know.
some people still buy CDs, some stream, some download, and everything. But the one thing I can see coming back is cassettes, and that could be a possibility. Yes.
I've heard that. Yeah, that's something, isn't it? Cassettes.
Oh, my daughter buys cassettes all the time, even blank ones. She steals them from me. Although I just give her a little slap on the wrist. I'm like, you can have them. They've been there for a long time.
That's crazy. I know. Yeah, it's funny how all these things kind of come back full circle after a while. But yeah, so anywhere, you just Google it and it's all out there and they can stream it. And I think some of my stuff is also on Spotify and this new song, the single that I have now, Feel So High. Now, actually, so Force Field Studios just released that. I licensed it to them and they remixed it and just put it out there. And now that actually is a song from an album and a band called Blastrum that I was in back in 2005.
Wow. Okay. All right. You know what? We'll talk more about that in just 1 second. You listen to the
Sure.
Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The of Missing, available on Amazon. We'll be back with former Wishbone Ash guitarist and solo project Roger Filgate of Feel So High after this timeout. We're back with guitarist Roger Filgate, formerly Wishbone Ash, and he's got a new song, Feel So High, on the Mike Wagner Show. And we were just talking about Feel So High as well, too, on Force Field. And tell us a bit more about the song and what inspired you to write Feel So High.
So that came about as a band that I had put together back in early 2000, early 2004. It just had started. I was writing some songs, got together with a friend of mine who was a drummer, and we were just kicking around some ideas. And then later that year, we had completed the band with a singer and a bassist. And so we got together, started recording, and one of the songs, the first song that I had written was this song called Feel So High. That was the first song on the track. And so we recorded the album, put it out in 2005, and played a handful of shows. And that particular band was short-lived, only lasted maybe just over a year, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, short-lived, kind of flash in the pan. But luckily, we got a great album out of it. And it was something that I always wanted to do, which is go down the avenue of something more heavy-hitting, hard rock, kind of Zeppelin, Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, you know, Aerosmith kind of vibe. So Feel So High is the track that we're talking about now. That was the first song on the album. It's been remixed and now re-released and licensed. So yeah, so that was one of the ones that, you know, made the cut. We decided to put it first on the album, and it landed on the desk of Forcefield Studios a while back. They contacted me because they loved the song. And, you know, basically we are putting it out there now, and I'm grateful that it's kind of resurfaced.
And that's so amazing as well, too. I got to hear it myself, and that was an amazing song. Love it, love it, love it. That was amazing.
Thank you. Thanks very much, man. Thank you. It was a lot of fun to do. It really was. It was,
it sounded like you had so much fun.
We did, yeah. It was great. It was a lot of energy in a short period of time, and like I said, I just wanted to get in there and you know, wanted to have a good ass kicking tune, you know, ballsy and just in your face, but you know, just catchy, easy songs to remember, you know, and just really just let it rip, and we did. We had a good time with it. So I'm proud of it. I'm glad we did it, and I'm glad that it's here to showcase.
And it sounds like a lot of fun as well, too. Where can we find Feel So High at?
So right now it's just being released through Forcefield Studios. So if you go to forcefieldstudios.com on their website, they have all the information there and on their Facebook page, but they're just now getting it out. There's a YouTube video of it. So it's under my name, Roger Filgate, Feel So High, remix. And so they're just now getting it out there, and it's going to be, you know, soon to be on Spotify and all the other venues that are out there. So it's early days. We're just getting it going now. And you're my first interview for this. So this is
amazing. Yeah, thank you. And I hope there's more to come for you as well, too. And you're honored to be part of my list, and I have to look up and see where we're at. So we'll talk more about it later. But anyway, we're with former Wishbone Ash guitarist Roger Filgate on the Mike Wagner Show with Feel So High and a lot of great works. And Roger, just a few more things. Love to have you back on as well, too, in 2022. What else can we expect from you heading into next year?
Well, like I said, I've been working on, I got into the solo stuff for quite some time. I, you know, ventured into the instrumental avenue quite a while back. And so that's something that's been on hold for a while, but now I'm just getting back into that again. So I'm in writing mode and recording. So I'm hoping, you know, maybe in another, probably 2023, somewhere around there, to have another instrumental album ready to go. Right now, I'm just kind of compiling everything and starting to chip away at recording. So just,
amazing
on that path. Yeah,
amazing. Certainly looking forward to it. Wells, Roger. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
You mean as a guitarist or
anybody in general?
Boy, well, that's a tough one to answer, just because there's been so many. You know, musically, I really have to say hats off to the Beatles. I put them in a category all their own, because they covered so much ground, and they were the first band to do everything. You know, they started everything and they changed the world during the course of it. But as a guitarist, like I said, Steve Howe singularly was probably the biggest influence of mine, just because of his versatility, and the variety of music and styles that he introduced me to, acoustic, electric, and jazz, progressive rock, blues, all the things that he played. He too played very cleanly,
Hmm.
and there's no hiding behind that. You really have to have some chops in order to pull off those riffs. And so very impressive. But there's so many, and to be honest with you, I mean, it starts with my mom and my family, and my brother Jim was really responsible for getting me into all of these incredible groups, and really, revealing this whole world of amazing music to me as a kid.
Hmm.
I just had it all right there, and really just absorbed every bit of it. So it's a hard question to answer. I don't think I answered it too well.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
It's I'm grateful to have all these influences in my life, but single-handedly, group-wise, I put the Beatles in their own category. They were, to me, one of the best bands ever. And then the guitarist-wise, Steve Howe is probably at the top of my influence list. Amongst many, there's many, but he's at the top.
And don't forget your Wishbone Ash buddies. Don't forget.
Of course. So Andy Powell, yeah, Ted Turner, yeah, of course. I mean, that goes without saying. Those guys were incredible. I learned a lot from them way before I even got to meet them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had the great honor of being able to be a band member with those guys. And so, to this day, Andy and I, we're great friends. We spend a lot of time fishing together. We hang out, and my wife and I go out with Andy and his wife. So we go out to dinner.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we're still great pals, and we hang out quite a bit. It's great friendship.
Oh, that's so amazing. I love it. That is just terrific. And what's that?
I'm sorry, I was going to say.
No, go ahead.
I have to acknowledge Andy Powell is absolutely one of the best rock and roll, blues, soulful players, as well as having chops out there. I mean, Andy, I've learned a lot from Andy as a player and as a friend and as a gentleman. I mean, he's just a great guy. He's very worldly. He's kind of like a big brother to me,
Nice.
And showed me the ropes when we were touring, because I was really like a babe in the woods at that time when I joined them, and all wide-eyed. I didn't want to blink so I wouldn't miss anything. But Andy's a fantastic guitarist, and really, people who aren't familiar with his work should check out everything he's done, because it's vast and versatile. It's
Mm-hmm.
incredible.
We certainly will do so, and that's so amazing. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
You know what? You just got to find what it is that you like to do stylistically, because nowadays, it's all different now. It's all changed, and so it just really depends on if you have something in mind that you would like to do, then just figure out a way to go out and do it. Just be yourself, be true to yourself as a player. And I would say, don't worry about whatever is trendy, because trends come and go.
Right.
And, for future musicians out there who are just getting started, work hard at it. It's hard work. There's no quick fix to become good at anything. You have to work your ass off and get good at it, and the more styles of music you listen to, the better you'll be for it.
Mm-hmm. Rightfully so. That's great advice, Roger. Once again, Roger Filgate, former Wishbone Ash guitarist, with his new single, Feel So High, on the Mike Wagner Show. Roger, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely terrific. Looking forward to having you again soon. Make sure you keep us up to date. Love you back in 2022 and beyond. And once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your music?
Excellent. Well, thank you too, Mike. Appreciate it. Currently, right now, the best way to check anything out or contact me is through forcefieldstudios.com. There's a page reserved for my music up there, so they can reach out to them. And again, online, if you just simply Google my name, all of the above will show up. All the works, Wishbone, all my solo work. It's all out there. So.
We certainly will do so. Once again, Roger, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely terrific. Looking forward to having you again soon. Make sure you keep us up to date. Don't forget to keep in touch. Love you back in 2022 and beyond. And just want to say we wish you all the best, and you've got a great future ahead of you.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it, brother. Thanks so much.